Brother, I'm going, run a wild Hulk Hogan. If I like it's a moment, I'll make sure it's an explosion. Cause lately I've been seeing stars, trying to kick out of this chokehold. But it's no holds barred, middle fingers like I'm stone cold.
What is good, ladies and gentlemen? We are back with another episode of the Slapping Me Wrestling podcast. We got a lot to talk about. I know you guys been waiting for this. Been waiting for this episode. We're late, but we're coming. I did give you notice on Tuesday too that we were gonna be a day late, but we got a lot to talk about on this episode. So let's dive on in. Before we get to that, as always, QR code in the bottom corner of this. If you're watching on YouTube, scan that. It takes you to the WWE shop. Go get your merch. You know, buy you a CM Punk shirt, buy you a Bailey shirt, buy you a Cody Rhodes shirt. You know, all this new merch dropping. Go buy that. Support the podcast. All the other links in the description as well. If you don't want to scan the QR code, or if you're listening on like a podcast network, link in the description. As well as, go to junkyardmediagroup.com. Go check out Beyond the Junkyard podcast as well. Live Thursdays at 9 p.m. Eastern time on the Junkyard Media Group YouTube page. Again, all those links can be found at junkyardmediagroup.com. So yeah, let's dive on into this. We got a lot to talk about. And so I originally had planned this show, to be honest with you, last Sunday when WrestleMania ended. I planned Tuesdays and this show on the same day with the idea of we're not going to sit here and talk about the same ideas, the same topics. We were going to cover WrestleMania with me and Wavy D, and then I was going to come in and give like my official thoughts on this topic of what does it mean that WWE is going to be in a new era. What are my thoughts on that, right? And we were going to spend 30 some minutes just discussing this new era, the Triple H era, right? And we're still going to talk about that. But then AEW decided to air the footage of the All In London debacle with CM Punk, and it would be remiss for me to sit here and talk about it. Now, Tuesday, I probably will ask Wavy D about it, what he thought about it, and to get his a little bit of his perspective on that incident and what the video showed. But I got to talk about it today. Because I changed the name of the episode. I changed all of it, right? For this, welcome to the clown show. That is AEW, right? So prior to Wednesday, for the last 5 years, I was, it first started and I watched it, and then I was interested in it. I wasn't necessarily a fan of it, but I felt that, it had its place and I wanted it to succeed. And while it wasn't for me, I still wanted it to there were fans of the show that, and it was big enough. I mean, when it first started, it was at least getting 900,000, 1 million viewers every so often, right? And as it continued on, I became less interested in it because they clearly are booking for that super niche internet wrestling fan who makes their entire personality wrestling, and that's not me. And so, it was there. It always existed. I've talked about it for the last 5 years, basically. And I've gone to shows when they came to town and all of that. I'm not I don't want it to die. But then this Wednesday happened. And just from a business perspective, that's what I want to look at. We'll talk about the footage here in a second, but let's analyze this from a business perspective. Right? The decision to air this footage is a lose-lose situation no matter what. Here's why. If you air it, right, you air the tape, like, what do you benefit from airing it? You can't, we're starting the story with Jack Perry. He's now the scapegoat. It's a way to introduce him back on the TV. Okay, well, the problem with that is you will never be able to finish that part of the story because CM Punk no longer works for your company. So you can't if Tony Khan would have done this last October, not let CM Punk walk out the door. You used this as an opportunity to tell a story, last September or last October, or even, instead of suspending CM Punk the next week at All Out, put CM Punk versus Jack Perry in a match and made some money off of it where you could finish that story. Then yeah, okay, it would make some sense. But there's no way you could finish like that story. And so now they have to come up on the fly with this other story about how because Matt and Nick had to be EVPs for the day and they actually do that side of their job, they were distracted and that's why they lost. And that's the story we're coming in. And then, right, it looks like, right. And again, that's cool. You'll have a banger match with FTR. That's fine. But the bigger part of this, like from a business perspective, is you can't finish that story, right? You can't finish the bigger story, which is Jack Perry. No matter how much heat Jack Perry gets, you can't finish it. It leads nowhere because the main feud that you would want is CM Punk versus Jack Perry. And that can't happen unless somehow Jack Perry either goes to WWE or WWE buys out AEW, with the latter being the more obvious or more simplistic of the ways to make it happen. But the point is like you don't win anything out of this, right? Because you air it. Let's just say people did side with Jack Perry there. What outcome do you expect to come out of that? Right? Jack Perry gets some heat. You pop a rating just a little bit, right? But let's talk about what the actual footage is. The actual footage literally is what CM Punk said happened. It's before it got copyrighted, Ariel Helwani literally put the interview, he overlaid it with the footage, and it literally went like CM Punk was narrating the video. Like CM Punk wasn't lying. Like the idea was like Tony Khan got so mad at CM Punk for this because he was lying. And two things happened. Two questions happened here for me. The first one was, Tony Khan, that made you fear for your life. That was sort of that was sort of like the question going around, the narrative going around on Twitter when this aired. Everyone was asking, that's what made Tony Khan fear for his life, right? That's your leader right there. That's the man you have leading you into battle. This man that, because someone gets in his face, right? And they're like, oh, well, Well, Jack Perry looked non-threatening. No. Okay. I need I didn't think I needed to explain this. I thought this was, common sense, but I'm learning more every day that common sense is, well, not as common as you think it is. And you don't need to be aggressive to be the aggressor, right? So what do I mean by that? If Jack Perry walked by or walked up to CM Punk, and CM Punk, did he step to Jack Perry? Sure. But I'm going to say that CM Punk was right, and he just asked, why do you have to live to this indie mark online internet crowd? Why do you have to do this type of shit? And CM Punk legitimately wanted Jack Perry to succeed. I don't think he had a problem with Jack Perry. I think he just has a problem with doing what the marks want, because it's not going to lead to anything. It's not going to build the company, which is what I honestly believe CM Punk wanted for AEW. When he stepped in, he wanted to build this thing to be competitive and to be actual competition and to potentially become something that could challenge the WWE. Now, maybe that's what CM Punk wanted. Obviously, that's not what the Young Bucks and Omega and Tony Khan want to do. That's obvious 5 years into this thing. But if CM Punk walks up and like just basically asks the question, why do you have to do it this way? And Jack Perry, no matter how non-aggressive he looks, if he asks the question, well, what are you going to do about it? That's an aggressive statement. That makes you the aggressor, right? You could say it calmly, but the words itself are threatening words. You're asking, right, what you're going to do about it. And for some people, like CM Punk, we obviously know CM Punk, like, he's not faultless at all in any of these situations. But you have to remember the timeline of CM Punk's AEW run. He gets there. They put the title on him. He runs that really good feud with MJF. He then gets paired with Hangman. They practice a segment backstage. They go to do it live on TV, and Hangman goes completely off script. He goes completely off script, causing CM Punk to look, dazed and confused and having to sort of ad-lib on the fly, which is really unprofessional. And, if I'm Tony Khan, like, I have a show, I don't need my superstars looking stupid live on TV, right? So that whole thing happens with the press conference with the with what Mindy's Muffins or whatever it's called, right? And the brawl out in the locker room with the Bucks and Omega, right? And then so he seems to be the only one disciplined in that situation. And then he comes back and he gets this show. The idea was, we're going to do this show, we're going to separate everybody, but that doesn't even happen because the Dynamite characters are now showing up on Collision. No one wants to listen to Punk. He was told he was going to have some sort of say in the creative of Collision, and they're sending people from Dynamite who want to do the indie shit, and then no one's listening to him. No one's willing to take the advice from CM Punk, right? And so he then, the week of Wembley, he gets stranded in the airport, no one there to pick him up, which he even stated it wasn't even that big of a deal to him. I think I made a bigger deal out of it than, Cornette and Bischoff and myself made a bigger deal out of it than CM Punk made a deal out of it. But he gets stranded, no one there to pick him up in the airport. He has to take the tube to find his way to the hotel and to get to Wembley. And then he gets to Wembley and he has children again going into business for themselves. bringing the backstage drama onto TV, right? At that point, I'm not saying it's right, but I'm saying it's justified. There's a difference between being right and being justified. Now, you could be both at the same time, but sometimes you can be justified in an action, but it not be the right action, right? So, for example, if, murder is a crime, but if you murdered the rapist of your daughter, I would say you're justified. I'm going to be completely honest with you, right? If you had a daughter and she was raped and you caught it and she told you, or whatever the situation is, and you found the dude who raped your daughter and you murdered him, I think you're completely justified in that action. It's an illegal action, but it's a justified action. Now, that's an extreme to tell the point, right? So CM Punk didn't do what was right. Should he have just walked away and done his match? Absolutely. No one's saying he's right, but we're saying he's justified, right? When he's continually being not heard, questioned, authority being tested, and the actual authority, and Tony Khan's not dealing with it. When Tony Khan's showing favoritism to the Lollipop Guild and All Friends Wrestling, and Tony Khan doesn't handle the situation. I mean, you could easily, watching the footage, you could see CM Punk before he laid hands on Jack Perry. You could easily see him look over behind the monitors where I'm assuming Tony Khan is. You can't really see Tony Khan because he's so small. He's hiding behind, like quite literally hiding behind the wall and the monitors, right? You can't see the dude. You can't hear it because there's no audio. But you could easily see Punk look over in the direction of what I'm assuming is Tony Khan, with what I'm assuming is him saying, handle this, because if I handle it, it's not going to be good. And then what I'm assuming is that Tony Khan did say, well, what do you want me to do? And at that point, CM Punk understood that he had to take matters into his own hands. And what this comes down to, everyone wants to call CM Punk entitled. But what this comes down to is you have people in AEW like Jack Perry who are entitled Hollywood brats. His daddy made it to the big time in Hollywood. Jack Perry's never had to struggle a day in his life. And he thinks the world owes him everything. So that he needs to be able to do whatever he wants to do, because that's the way he grew up. He could have whatever he wanted, when he wanted, how he wanted it, at the moment he wanted it. And no one ever questioned Jack Perry. And so the second Jack Perry gets into the real world, where people are going to question him and people are going to tell him no, because he isn't the authority of his career. There are people above him that have that ability, right? And when someone like CM Punk and Tony Schiavone and the doctor of AEW, I don't know his name, right? But when all of those people say no, you can't do it, and then CM Punk gets involved and he says, no, we're not doing it, go take that shit to Wednesdays. Instead of being, an adult about it, Jack Perry goes in the business for himself. He acts like the entitled Hollywood brat he is, and he goes in the business for himself, and he does it anyway, defying his bosses. So everyone wants to be like, oh, if you laid hands on your coworker or if you yelled at your boss, would you not be fired? Absolutely. No one's saying CM Punk should have not been fired. No one's saying that. But what about Jack Perry? He denied the orders of upper management. And he went and did it anyway, what he was told not to do. If he did that in any job, he would be fired too. Why is he still on contract with AEW? Right? Granted, they pushed him to New Japan. They let him go to Japan, and just recently now they're trying to solve this situation. But why is Jack Perry still working? Why is Jack Perry not looked at as a bad employee? Right? Again, I think I say this all the time with the whole like Roman hate. When Roman was champion and everyone hated it, right? So anytime someone new came in, they got cheered and everyone was like, oh, this is a big baby face. And I was like, no, they're only being cheered for because of who they're fighting against, right? LA Knight got cheered for because it was him versus Roman, right? Same thing with people like, but Cody was different. They did a very good job building Cody to the level of when he faced Roman, he was already cheered. And I think that's going to last longer than something like an LA Knight or a McIntyre. At the time McIntyre was facing Roman at Clash at the Castle, I thoroughly believe he was only getting cheered because he was fighting Roman. His character was very stale at that point. Now this new McIntyre, completely different, right? But a Sami Zayn, a Kevin Owens were really only getting cheered for as the face of the story because of who they were fighting against, right? And in the same situation, Jack Perry is only getting heat because of who he is involved with. If this was anybody else, I don't think Jack Perry draws a pimple on the elephant's ass of fans to the product. And I don't necessarily think he's over. I think what's happening is people are realizing that this whole situation's fucked up. And Jack Perry, he's going to get a little bit of a pop. Sure, his merch is sold out. He's going to get this little bit of a push, but in 6 months, is it going to last when people stop giving a damn about it? You air this footage, and the footage corroborates CM Punk's story. So the first part of the business is you completely just, if I'm a superstar in AEW, I'm on eggshells right now thinking if I do anything wrong to piss off Tony Khan, he might air grievances of backstage drama on TV. That has to lower morale. We're right. You know what else has to lower morale? The fact that you're giving valuable TV time. You're giving valuable TV time to a man who no longer works for the company. For CM Punk, has got more TV time than several of your wrestlers that are on your roster right now. Could you have not built some other story with the time that you dedicated to this promo, right? But then the second thing is like, I don't know about you, but having watched the footage now, not only was CM Punk justified, he's the winner, dude. He first off, everyone said he punched Perry. He didn't. He did what people tell you to do when you're defending yourself. You jab at him, not really a jab, but you open hand, like push him back. You create distance. It's a warning shot to Jack Perry. Back the fuck up, dude. And if you continue to be the aggressor, because obviously it was a defensive move by CM Punk, which tells me that Jack Perry, even looking non-aggressive, was the aggressor. There are animals in nature that are not aggressive creatures, but they are aggressors, right? And you could be an aggressor by mind tricks, psychology. Yeah, he was messing with his hair and he wasn't looking threatening, but he said, "What are you going to do about it?" And when Tony Khan was told to handle it, and he said, "What do you want me to do?" CM Punk then took it into his own hand. Again, not right, but justified. He pushed him back, said, "Back up." And when Jack Perry continued to be the aggressor, CM Punk then choked him a little bit. I don't see how that's damning to CM Punk. I don't see this narrative of how CM Punk's a drama queen. I just don't. I don't see that narrative. I just don't. Everything to me here seems like CM Punk just had enough of working in the company he was working in, which is right. So it's hard to compare this to the corporate office because these are just guys in a locker room. This happens all the time. This has happened all the time in the history of wrestling. People don't get along and they fight and they rib each other. That's what happens. It's the industry. So we can't compare this to some office job or some, you know, industry that isn't, sports related. I'm sure this happens in NFL locker rooms. Guys get mad at each other and they start fighting. But that's the industry that they're in. So rules can't be applied across the board. Rules have to be applied to different industries differently. Right? So yeah, I would if I'm a wrestling promoter and there's a fight backstage and it's just two people who get upset, right? If it's CM Punk and Jack Perry and they're pissed off because one went into the business to look the other one, right? CM Punk was protecting his business, which is himself. He's protecting his spot. Right? And I would be perfectly fine with it. Hey, let's separate them. Let's get them away from each other. But there's passion here in CM Punk. He wants the best product possible. Right? I don't see this narrative of drama queen that everyone wants to see. And what really has happened here is CM Punk gained a lot of respect to me. Like I used to just be like, nonchalant, like, okay, he's here, that's fine. Bro, I literally just bought his shirt. Like CM Punk is literally, I'm not even kidding. He's literally my lock screen right now. Like I in the last 2 years, I went from like not caring he existed, like completely bashing the motherfucker. I don't agree with him on a personal level on a lot of things. But bro's about to be my favorite wrestler. Roman's taking a break. Bro's about to be my favorite wrestler. This storyline with Punk and McIntyre is about to be great. And then he's over here getting free advertising on Wednesdays. CM Punk's this. I can't wait to see how Drew McIntyre subliminally mentions this tape. I can't wait for it. Right, right, and we have this contrast, and we're going to see it in this very episode of how WWE's at the highest point in the last 10 years that it's ever been. Meanwhile, on the other side of the coin, AEW's doing childish clown show antics. Right? So we get done airing this footage, and I think it was directly after. I think you have FTR respond, but then you do a promo with Will Ospreay. And he's being interviewed by Renee. Now that's an important aspect to look at here, because before we get to this, we just came off of this promo of airing this footage, and they went to the commentator's desk, and Tony Schiavone's reaction looked like the dude was having PTSD flashback of Bash at the Beach 2000. This dude was going through it, looked embarrassed as fuck to be working for a company ran by children. And when I say that, I mean literally Tony Khan is a child. Because he, you know why him and Jack Perry are so, probably so close, is because they're the same motherfucking person. Daddy was a millionaire. Daddy was a billionaire. Daddy had all the money. Daddy was successful. Never told no in his life. I don't know how Tony Khan grew up. I don't know if Shad was a strict parent but you could sort of see how he was raised. I could sort of assume that Tony's never been told no a day in his life. Gotten everything that he wanted. Daddy, I want to run a football team. Daddy, I want to have a soccer team. Daddy, I want to play. I want a wrestling company. Give me all your money. I'm going to blow it down the drain, spend $16 million a year on 3 wrestlers. Not to mention how much he's paying someone like Adam Copeland or Mox or all these other guys that he's convinced to come join him over the years. With little to no return, with a TV deal set to expire sometime this year, while the competition's secured TV deals, with the biggest TV deal known to man in the Netflix deal starting in January. You got SmackDown moving with the super large deal moving back to USA. You got NXT going to a new network with the CW. And WWE's locked in. They got these big deals. And yet AEW, nothing's been reported about this no deal. You got the Peacock deal with WWE. You got a lot going on. Money's coming in. And if you're Shad, you're looking at, at least if I'm Shad, I'm looking at Tony and was like, why are you not doing this? Why are you not following what they're doing? Why do you got to do sandbox? Why you got to play in the sandbox with the dorks? Why can't you go hang out with the cool kids and go do what the cool kids are doing? Maybe you can capture some of that money. But it appears to me that Tony Khan's never been told no a day in his life. And he pops this tweet up about how he's got a 29% increase in ratings, as if that's not the only reason he aired the footage in the first place, right? But then you come off of that and you have Will Ospreay come out here, and Renee. This is important because Renee looked embarrassed as fuck during this promo, right? This is Renee Paquette, who knows Stephanie McMahon, who knows Triple H, who are friends with these people. And you have Will Ospreay, who has never worked a day in his life with these people, who I'm 100% certain was told by Tony Khan to say this, and he obliged, rather than saying, no, that's not good. At some point, one of these wrestlers got to tell Tony, no, I'm not doing that. That's a bad idea. I'm trying to build my career. Look, Will Ospreay, if you ever had any idea of making AEW your springboard to the WWE, you completely destroyed it by saying these words. Come out here talking about how Triple H said he didn't like how Will Ospreay wasn't for the grind. And he never mentioned Will by name, by the way, in his interview. He was just talking about how what WWE expects out of their signees when they bring them in, it's not going to be some easy job where because of what you did on the indies, you're going to get a pass of anything. It's a tough schedule. You got to, if you're on Raw, you got to be at TV on Monday. You got to travel, the rest of the week to the house shows, and you do your house show a week, right? Is the schedule less than what it used to be? Sure, but it doesn't mean it's not tough, especially if you want to be a top guy. If you're someone like Cody Rhodes is now, Cody's schedule just got more packed because now he's the guy. He's got to do all the press. He's got to do Mondays and Fridays, and in between do all the press work, and then do the house show on Saturday. Right, that's the type of grind we're talking. We're talking about Ilya Dragunov style grind, right? Everyone's like, well, Will wants to stay with his family in London. He doesn't want to move his family. That's great. Guess what? Ilya Dragunov moved to America alone. Hasn't seen his family in months. That's the type of grind Triple H is talking about. And sure, he was calling out Will Ospreay, but he never said his name. And I'm certain he's not the only one he was talking about. I think there's a lot of other free agents that went to TNA or AEW that were signed that didn't come to WWE that he could also be talking about. So Tony Khan sends Ospreay out here to say the most uncreative shit ever said that we haven't heard before. We haven't heard this brought up before, that he was grinding on the boss's daughter, that Triple H is only where he's at because he married into the McMahon family. And while there may be some evidence for that, maybe there may be some proof for that, but you can't 100% prove that. We don't know where Triple H would be if he didn't marry Stephanie. But even still, like, who cares? He's built a life for himself. Triple H has earned everything that he has gotten. Like, this is the dude that literally was in the doghouse, lost King of the Ring 96 because of the curtain call. right? Almost destroyed his career. He was supposed to be king of the ring, not Austin, right? But he worked his ass off to get to the top of the card and become one of the greatest champions the company has ever seen, and create two of the best factions the company has ever seen with DX and Evolution. Putting over Batista, putting over a younger Orton. He was instrumental in getting Daniel Bryan over with the authority gimmick. Right? So you're going to sit here and act like Triple H didn't earn nothing. You're insane. He busted his ass off, dude. So to sit here and act like, oh, he's only in the spot he's at because he was grinding on the boss's daughter. First off, that's a corny ass line. Second, most uncreative shit I've ever heard in my life. You could and then you see Renee Paquette's reaction to it live on TV. And my question is do they not know what's going to happen? Like, does Renee not know the answer? Like why does she not know what's going to be said? Like this should have been a rehearsed interview. And you get this reaction from Renee that's like deep regret, like I don't want to be here no more, because he just talked about her former employee friends. Like, I'm sure she's still friends with Stephanie, and you're going to talk about her in that way, right? And everyone wants to talk about, oh, we're not in the 90s no more. Rock needs to stop his 90s humor. But then you come out and do 90s humor with Will Ospreay, and and you pop for it. That's something you hear in the 90s. And I'm not saying it was like, I mean, outside of it being corny and uncreative, I'm not upset with it. But it's the 90s humor that everyone hated that The Rock did every time it does. And right. So what is this clown show known as AEW? To me, it's dead, right? Start the tune In the Arms of an Angel. Someone make that advertisement. For $1 a day, you could pay to help Tony Khan somehow fill the holes in the ship that he created. He self-destructed his company. No one's going to take this serious anymore outside of the marks. And when the ratings tank next week, like I have the feeling that they will, Tony Khan's the only one to blame. Tony Khan's the only one to blame now. From this point forward, and this is how I've typically handled it anyway. I'm not going to blame a wrestler. I'm not going to blame a commentator. I'm not going to blame a backstage employee. The only person that I will blame for AEW's failure is Tony Khan. He's the only one. He's the single person standing in the way of the success of AEW is Tony Khan. At this point, Tony Khan needs to go. He is destroying not just AEW, but the wrestling industry. And on the other side, Paul Levesque, Triple H, is doing everything he can to make WWE the best it's ever been. And we see this contrast of the week where WWE is at its highest. It's the big leagues. And then you see Tony Khan playing high school pettiness over someone who's no longer in his company because he just can't get over CM Punk leaving. He can't believe it. He can't believe that he let him slip out. And he does petty shit to try to prove CM Punk wrong, try to pop a rating. You gain like 19,000 people over what your typical average is. But even still, throughout the whole show, you lost like almost 200,000 people from your peak to the end of the show. Yeah, your average is up. I don't know, man. AEW's dead to me. They died. This is sort of like the beginning of the end for AEW to me. And like I said, I don't want it to die, but everything they're doing business-wise makes it feel like they don't give a fuck if they survive or not. They're dead, dog. And if you're a fan of the company, you should want them to do shit that doesn't make the company look bad, and that's what they're doing. But you're so short-sighted that, and you want the games, you want the circus, you want the clown show, because that's what entertains you. But you're not thinking about this long term. You're not thinking about this long term. You're so short-sighted. You get the clown show in AEW, and it entertains you for 1 week, and you say the petty line to Triple H like Ospreay did, and it pops a crowd for a minute. But long term, you're just putting holes into a ship that is sinking. I'm giving it less than 5 years, and AEW is no longer in existence. And that's gracious. 5 more years at max. Because I don't see Warner Brothers playing with this shit any longer. I think maybe they renew the TV deal. Maybe they take it off of TV and put it solely on Max. But I don't see this company lasting much longer on a mainstream level. I think eventually AEW is going to become just another indie promotion. It'll run shows on a weekly basis. Maybe Tony Khan could squeeze some sort of TV deal because of the money that his dad has and the influence his dad has. But it's not going to be nationwide. It's not going to be mainstream, and you're not hitting ratings. I'm sorry. The company's dead to me, and I'm giving it at least 5 years max before it's just another indie promotion. That's just how I feel about it. Any interest I had in watching the product over the last 2 weeks have died. They've died. Any interest that I've had in maybe potentially becoming an AEW fan, it's over. It's done. You've really alienated the wrestling fan base here. Any of the fans that you could have brought over, Tony, you completely lost them because you want to do stupid clown show shit. You took them to the circus, and you ended up being the clown. But let's switch over to WWE here. And I want to give my actual thoughts on the ending of Roman Reigns' title run. Because I could easily come in here and sort of kayfabe this shit like, oh, no, man, Roman's still my tribal chief. And he is. Roman, when he comes back on TV, no doubt the one's going up. And after what we saw on last night on SmackDown with Tama Tonga showing up and Solo seeming to take over and Jimmy being turned on, we're about to get some cinema again. Like this story's not over yet. This story's not. Cody's story may be finished, but the bloodline's not done yet. And I'm glad they did it this way, because my fear was that Roman loses and they sort of just toss the bloodline. But you know what? Triple H is smart. He understands that the bloodline is the reason why people watch SmackDown. You can't just get rid of this drama, right? And so the reign may be over, and that's fine. You free the belt up. But you continue the story here, which for the next year is more than likely, you're going to have the Rock saga, which leads to Cody versus Rock probably next year's WrestleMania. So we're going to get a year-long build there. And in the meantime, this just means what? You're going to get Bloodline 2.0, new Bloodline versus old Bloodline. You probably get a Roman, Jimmy, and Jay reunion as a team. The coming back as faces. I don't necessarily think Roman has to come back a face, but he's definitely going to be cheered in the situation, I believe, if they can manipulate this properly. I think we get one final Uso face tag team title run wherever they end up. And let me tell you, whatever they're cooking right now, whatever Triple H is cooking right now, it's going to cook. And it looks like the potentiality of this leading to Roman versus Rock at WrestleMania 42, where we're talking about like long-term storyline, like 2-year long story between Roman and Rock. If they can keep it interesting, I think that match gonna cook. Right? I think that match gonna cook, but they got to keep it interesting because you got to keep attention for 2 years on it. I don't know if they could do it, but if they can, if Triple H can keep the story interesting for the next 2 years and everything can work out right, and everything align, that match gonna cook. And I have a feeling that match is going to be in Vegas. I have a feeling that Mania 41 is going to be in Minneapolis, like all the reports say. They haven't reported it yet, but all the rumors are saying it. And I think 42, WrestleMania 42, I believe will happen in Vegas. And it's going to be one of the biggest. You know, and we say this every year, but it really feels like it now that like they could be creating like the biggest WrestleMania of all time every single year for like the next 10 years at this point. But yeah, I'm not upset anymore that Roman lost the title. There's a lot of people on the internet who are either playing a character or they're being edgy, and they're like, he's still my tribal chief. Cody Rhodes needed all this help. He didn't need help. I need y'all to understand what happened. Cody Rhodes didn't need help. Roman Reigns was not touched by any of the help that came down because it wasn't help. It was evening the numbers. Right? So Jimmy came out and attacked Cody Rhodes, right? So Jay comes out and takes out Jimmy. Right? Solo comes out and attacks Cody Rhodes. So Cena comes out and takes out Solo. Seth Rollins comes out to try to take out The Rock because The Rock comes out next. And so Seth Rollins comes out to try to take out The Rock, which Roman then takes out Seth. So who do we have come to take out The Rock? We have The Undertaker. The gong hits, which probably is better than what was being announced as that's the Stone Cold spot, but they couldn't come to a financial agreement on payment, which I think Undertaker makes more sense anyway. Just personally. So then you have Undertaker take out Rock. And then you have then you have Roman so obsessed with Seth Rollins turning on him that he pays him back, which cost him the match. 3 crossroads later. Cena didn't touch Roman. Undertaker didn't touch Roman. Seth didn't touch Roman. Jay didn't touch Roman. None of the help touched Roman. Cody didn't get help. He had backup. He had his Avengers beside him to help him win the battle. And it was cinema. And it was beautiful. And it ended the reign. And it ended the story. And Cody Rhodes is now champion. And seeing this man with the belt just feels right. It just feels right. And coming off the last segment that I just said, I want Triple H to be petty. Right? If AEW is going to be petty, Triple H can be petty but still make it good. Tony Khan is just petty, but none of it's good television. Hunter, do me a favor. You got Cody as champion. At some point, can we make Jade champion? Maybe. Can we make CM Punk Intercontinental champion or world champion? Imagine a company where your Universal champion is Cody Rhodes, your world heavyweight champion CM Punk. Jade is, she would really benefit by being like a mid-card title like what NXT is doing with the Women's North American Championship, right? But putting Jade as like the one to beat Bayley, and right, and you just had all of these big names in AEW who left and became champions and were taken seriously in WWE, and you just do it out of spite of Tony Khan, just because you know it would make him snort another line or two in anger, just make him cry a little bit. You don't be that petty. I mean, you can if you want to, but I'm just saying that's the level of petty I would be on. But I mean, honestly, if you look at it, like Jade Cargill's about to be about to be women's tag champion. I thoroughly believe it. CM Punk's about to be in the biggest feud of the summer with him and McIntyre. And whether that the title's in play with Damian Priest, I have no idea. I'm telling you, man, WWE's at its peak right now. It's peaking. It's trending. And I don't want to say peak because that means it's about to fall. But this company is growing and it's getting better. And the Triple H era is here, dog. So yeah, Cody Rhodes is champion, and he's going to be the guy that leads us into this new era. And I'm excited for him. I'm happy for him. Like I'm not even upset. There's a lot of these people on the internet that are like, Roman Reigns is still my champion. No, bro, it's not that serious, dude. You didn't even enjoy the story because you lived behind this. Again, you made Roman Reigns your whole personality. And I mean, even here on camera, like, let me be honest, on camera here, like, yeah, he's my tribal chief, throw the one jump, like, but I never took it to the extreme of like, damn, Roman Reigns is my whole personality. Like, I understood the story that was being told, and it ended probably better than anything I could cook up. And the fact that they're now deciding to push Solo and they're giving Solo some character. I told you 2024 about to be the year of Solo. I told you. WeTooDeep got it right. I didn't book it completely right. I had Solo winning the title and being the one to beat Roman. But I think this is better than that. Because the bloodline no longer needs championships. This is about the family. And now we got family civil war happening again. This is about to be bangers, dude. This is about to be crazy. And SmackDown still has the bloodline. You don't get rid of the bloodline. Even when Roman Reigns leaves. You don't get rid of it. Roman Reigns could be gone. Guess what? The bloodline's still here. And Solo's now in charge. Or so it seems, until Roman comes back and tries to put his ass back in place. And we're going to get Roman versus Solo like I said we would. We're going to get Roman versus Solo like I said we would this year. This year is the year of Solo. And the only reason I said Solo was going to win the title was because that's the only... If you put Roman versus Solo, my whole intention or idea was that Roman's not losing the title anytime soon. But now that he's lost the title, it almost is better, puts him in a better position because you could do Roman versus Solo and have Roman lose. And Solo can go over. Roman doesn't have to win every match now. We're about to get bangers, man. The product of WWE is cooking. And if you can't smell what's cooking, it's because you're just a hater. You're not paying attention. Backlash is about to be fire. Like, I've never been so excited for the summer months. Right? It used to be like, if you've been a fan long enough, it used to be that Rumble through Mania was super exciting. But then you got done with Mania, you had the Raw after Mania, and then you really had this long stretch of the summer from right after Mania till SummerSlam, where it was just dead. It was boring. They were just surviving and getting through. It was, The big stars a lot of times took their vacation during this time, so it was just a lot of nothing. But that's not happening this year. Like, I've never been this excited for the summer months, because the same thing sort of happens with Survivors or with SummerSlam, right? You get this month-long build to SummerSlam for like July and August, and then after it, the big stars leave again, and you have a long winter heading into Survivor Series, which then immediately turns around into Royal Rumble. And so you have like two typically like lull periods of time. In WWE, I don't think it's going to have that no more. Like, it's cooking right now. And this summer is about to be the best summer I think we've ever seen in WWE. I'm going to go ahead and put my money on it. This might be the best summer we've ever seen in WWE. We're going to have Solo get over. We're going to have Cody lead us in as champion. More than likely, Gunther's winning Money in the Bank. Tiffany Stratton's probably winning Money in the Bank. We just got bangers everywhere, dude. We got bangers everywhere. This summer about to be great, dude. It's great to be a WWE fan right now. Let's just be honest. The Triple H era is here. And he's showed us how he's going to book, and he showed us how he was going to run the company. And look, I used to critique Triple H, but I think he's got full reign now. Like, I believe like this is the official beginning of the Triple H era. And I probably won't like everything he books. I'll be honest. He's not there are some areas where I think he plays into the indie markish segment of the show, and that's fine. It is what it is. But we about to cook, man. And I'm trusting Triple H with the company, and I think it's a great decision to trust Triple H with the company. He's about to make money. He's about to make money because that's the business he's in. And he's about to make moments because that's the business that he's in. And he's about to entertain because that's the business that he's in. And sports entertainment's no longer here. We are pro wrestling. But we're going to entertain you at the same time. WWE's cooking right now. And this may be super biased, but like AEW's dead to me. AEW, AE who? Sorry, they're dead. They're not a real company. It's a guy playing in a sandbox with some toys, and they're expensive toys. But it's a teenager living out his teenage dream. That's what AEW is. Well, it's really a 30-year-old man living out his teenage dream because he thinks that that's what makes good television. But he has no experience in the TV world to understand what makes good television. He just has daddy's money. And he has a bunch of people who grew up on daddy's money working for him. Not everybody, but it just takes a couple of them. It takes a couple Cucamonga kids. It takes a Perry. Takes a hangnail. Takes people who think that they can, right? Look, Kenny Omega earned his money in Japan, but guess what? He grinded. Good for you. Guess what? That doesn't mean you're over here, man. And you're not over here. The Young Bucks, you made your money in Japan. Good job. Guess what? You're not over here. You're not stars. You're circus acts. You got a long way to go till you get to the big leagues. That's where I'll end that right there. And we're going to end this show with what typically would be like my top 10 list, but let's just be honest, those top 10 lists are, it's hard to come up with new categories that are entertaining for like because to me top 10 are like top 10 women, top 10 men, top 10 tag teams. I'm not going to do like the super markish thing, like my top 10 WrestleMania moments of I don't give a fuck about that shit, right? So we're going to do something that I kind of stole, what kind of trying to make my own, and that is the WeTooDeep stock market. And what we're going to do is every week every week from Monday till this episode, it's going to move back to Fridays, I do believe. You basically have like, I'm going to judge like who's rising and falling in favor of WeTooDeep, right? And this is strictly subjective, right? So who's rising in the WeTooDeep stock market? Whose stock is going up? And there's a lot of them. I just mentioned one of them. His name is Solo Sikoa. His time's coming. After last night, Solo Sikoa's stock is rising. I have Cody Rhodes. Now, his stock in terms of WWE's, yeah, it's rising, but it's been pretty high. But for me, like, I've never been a big fan of Cody Rhodes. This performance at Mania and just seeing him with the belt, and for some reason, like, it just clicked with me. I understand it now. I understand his appeal, and I understand why people like him. His stock rose with me. He's the dog now. He's the big guy. Ryback's gonna cease and desist me for saying that. Cody Rhodes is the top dog. He is the guy, right? Second place, or thirdly, really it's thirdly, but Seth Rollins. I gained a lot of respect for Seth Rollins and what he put in on WrestleMania weekend. Dude was essentially a part in 3 matches, partially hurt. I don't think he was 100% healthy. Dude was spent. He got beat up for like 3 different matches, like for what, an hour on Saturday, comes in and then starts Sunday and gets fucking destroyed. Puts over McIntyre, puts over Cody. I gain a lot of respect for that dude. He took 2 L's, but his stock is still rising. He's going to go take a well-deserved vacation and hopefully change that character, right? Third, Damian Priest. Dude just comes out Monday night with the most swag I've ever seen in somebody. Like, this dude no longer like, even if he becomes the leader of Judgment Day or they stay in Judgment Day, that's great. But dude has swagger with that title. Dude looked good with that title. His stock rose the minute I saw him on Raw with the title, and it was made for him. He was made for this moment. Damian Priest was. Rhea Ripley's stock, solely because, but we'll get to her in a minute. Becky Lynch, stock rose. She had strep throat, had like 103-degree fever the whole weekend, and still put on probably the best match of night one. Probably the best match of night one, in my opinion. I think Gunther and Sammy may come with it, but with the circumstances around what was going on with Becky Lynch, and she was sick. Yeah, banger of a match, dude. She earned some respect to me. Earned a lot of respect to me. And she gets a well-deserved break. But Rhea Ripley, right? Knowing that Becky was sick, right? And then Rhea Ripley comes out here, and then it gets reported she goes on Monday night and tells her WWE World panel that she was on that she was mid-panic attack the whole match. Like, she was having a panic, and I've never had a panic attack before. Like, those could be debilitating. And to see how she performed with 72,000 people in the in the arena and millions across the world watching on the biggest stage of the year to start the show. Now, I don't know if people understand this. The second most envied spot on the roster. So obviously everyone wants to headline. Obviously everyone wants to main event. Everyone wants to be Roman Reigns. But the second most important place on the card, where if you ask any wrestler this, is the person who starts the show. That first match is the second most important spot on the card. And I would even argue the most important spot, because you're bringing the energy, you're setting the bar. And if you set it low, and it may be a bad show, right? But if you set it really high, and that's the bar, and you bring the energy, and you set the crowd to the energy level for it, right? You're bringing the energy, literally. You're dictating the crowd for the rest of the night. Because this gives everyone behind you an opportunity to see what type of crowd it is. And they're going to live off of the energy you create for the rest of the night. And really for the rest of the weekend. And so this is right. So not only are they starting night one, but they're starting all of WrestleMania. And so I can imagine that this is a pressure-filled situation that Rhea Ripley is in. And I can imagine that there's a lot of stress that comes into that. And she's getting a live performance of her song by her favorite band. She did not look one bit like she was having a panic attack. She didn't at all. I respect the hell out of her for that performance. She went in there, and a lot of people would have just sort of crumbled under the pressure. But Rhea Ripley rose to the occasion and put on a hell of a match for the second year in a row. Second year in a row. It wasn't as good as her Charlotte match last year, but she put on a really good match with Becky Lynch. Mid-panic attack while Becky was sick. Those women deserve every bit of praise that they get. And that's why, to me, they are the top two women's wrestlers on the planet right now. When the pressure rises, some people crumble, some people turn into diamonds. These two turn into diamonds. Now, whose stock is falling? The Usos. They put on probably the worst match of WrestleMania this year. And yeah, but I'm not really going to blame them. So their stock is falling. But there's really one dude that this is more of a who am I calling out this week is basically what this is. And that's Jason Jordan. And I know it's not fair to put a producer back here, but y'all, you can't be producing PLEs no more if you're going to give me the two worst matches. Right? And the only reason I put the Usos as stock falling is because there was so much hype around this match. And we got a dud. And maybe it was Jason Jordan. You know, Jason Jordan's the producer. I'm not necessarily certain what they were looking to show here with that type of match. It was bad. It was just bad. And Jason Jordan really, and I'm not saying this is bad all the time, like he's bad all the time, but if I see his name again on a dud, on a PLE, we got to really just take into consideration, should he be doing PLEs? Right? But that's that. Let me know what y'all think. Go to the Discord group, and again, that link's in the description. Junkyard Media group link in the description. Link to the QR codes in the description. If you're watching on YouTube, like, share, subscribe. Send this to all your friends who may like wrestling, who may be interested in the wrestling. We're here for everybody. We want to give that type of perspective to the casuals, to the non-watchers, to the people interested, to the hardcore. We're here for everybody. We want to have that level of engagement. Join the Discord. Follow the Junkyard Media group on X/Twitter, whatever y'all want to call it. Follow me on Twitter as well at WeTooDeep413. And newly followed by John Cena, by the way. Yeah, man, this is a fun time in WWE, man, and I can't wait to discuss some more on Tuesday when I bring in DJ Wavy D to back into the conversation. But until then, thank y'all for watching, and I will see you next Tuesday.
Brother, I'm going run a wild Hulk Hogan. If all I get's a moment, I'll make sure it's an explosion. 'Cause lately